And you're good.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carol, and to you and Josh both that, they really have been very consistent with this Thursday night, and that has proved to be a great foundation for all of us, especially now. As Andrea was saying, we're really in an interesting time and a very challenging one. If there's anyone who's joining us for the very first time, my name is Cheryl Cortese. I'm a National Marketing Director with the Juice Plus Company now for 33 years. And if I look at this and I listen tonight and, it just, every time it just brings me almost to tears because, I think about, certainly we think about ourselves and how we relate to the stories and, the things we've experienced and the things that maybe we've gotten past and have forgotten how hard those things were to deal with, or being able to watch other people that we love and care about find solutions for things that are really, really challenging. As I'm listening tonight, and was it Mary, or I believe, that talked about bronchitis a couple of times a year. I had that for years, and then it's been so long now that I haven't. That I'm just so blessed, that this has been part of my life for so long. This Juice Plus product, and where I guess it really pulls at my heartstrings is when you hear children and the difficulties of children today, and how real that is, and how massive it is, and how broad it is, as far as those challenges are concerned. And that's really where I think, it warms my heart so much that we really do have ways to help. We have solutions. We have, and also the community of support. And tonight, I really wanted to more or less focus on where we are from a thinking standpoint, where we are from, just going through the experience together of this pandemic and how that weighs on us. As Andrea said, isolation is a very difficult thing in life, but we can make a difference. And but the way we think and how we work at directing our thinking has a lot to do with not only the success that we experience, but our level of happiness. And so we come to this call to talk about skills, to talk about, things that are going to empower our businesses. Product stories certainly are huge. Really understanding our marketing model and how to help people grow through that compensation plan so that they get the return that they deserve. But all of that really, if you look at skills, how do you access skills at the highest level, is really in the manner in which you think, how you direct your thinking. And so I'm going to have another, we've been doing this for the last few weeks, kind of the surprise NMD who will come on, and we'll share thoughts together. And that's the other beauty of what we do is, you work alongside people for months, years, decades, and you really do find friendships that are very, very powerful and very endearing and very uplifting for yourself, as well as a learning experience and what you can learn from each other. So tonight I have National Marketing Director Moira Daniels with me. Moira, you here?
I'm here. Thank you,
Oh, good.
Cheryl. Thank you,
And
everybody. Your stories were great.
they were wonderful. And so we were just going to share a little bit about, I want Moira to share her story and, thoughts and experiences along the way, because I think it helps us all. You grow up in our business, and sometimes you'll look at people who've been here a long time and you think, oh, everything was perfect for them. It's not perfect for me, but I think it was perfect for them. And yet we all have those triumphs as well as, challenges. And so I want Moira to share her story, and then we're going to talk about, how you direct your thoughts, your feelings, how do you stay positive? What are the ingredients that go into supporting those skills that we learn in doing our basics and in what we have to offer? So Moira, maybe you can start with your story and any tips you might have, and then let's talk about intention and thought, positive thought.
Love to. Thank you so much, Cheryl. And I've learned so much for you over the years. I just don't think I'd be doing this business without you. So thank you. I for a while there, I think it was very difficult for me to focus on my health. I was too busy doing other things. And as a result, I related to Mary's stories very well. I became quite ill, and in a 1 year span, I was on antibiotics 5 times due to sinus infections. I had digestive issues, and I was diagnosed with melanoma. And although these chronic diseases presented in rapid succession, it took me years and years and years of thinking I was eating well, but I wasn't. And I also realized that I couldn't eat my way to good health, that I needed something to bridge that gap. So when I found Juice Plus, it made total sense to me. And I got right on it, and I got my family on it, and I became a rep because I wanted to get it at the best price. And I also knew I would be sharing it with my family. I'm one of 10 kids, 6 girls, 4 boys. I'm 5th. So I figured I could build my business pretty quickly just on my family. And I did. I built it very quickly. But what I didn't realize was my parents were very, very committed to giving back to their community. And that meant we gave back to our community. And that had a huge effect on me. So I've always given back to my community and participated in being on school boards and running a cultural arts program and all kinds of things. And yet I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So when I found the Juice Plus business, I felt like I found the best of both worlds. My need to grow something that I used my innovation and my creation and my energy, as well as serving the community to build a better world, to inspire healthy living. And, you know, when I was diagnosed with melanoma, they kept telling me, the doctors kept telling me I was going to get other cancers. And I said, like heck I am. I have no intention of leaving this planet by cancer, not this time. And so I became a health advocate. I couldn't stop this business if I wanted to, Cheryl. It's become very much a part of me. And now I'm, you know, get in 3 feet of me and we'll trust me, we'll start a conversation. I'm pretty good at it.
And I think, you know, after a time, it really becomes so much, it's a part of your identity. I know I feel that for myself. It's part of my identity at this point because, you know, it's so intrinsic now as to the way we think and what we do. So you also shared a little story with me today, I think, about, you know, sometimes we all feel that trepidation of, should I speak up about Juice Plus or not? You're in maybe a social setting. Maybe you just feel like sometimes people think, I just need a little time off. But, you know, I think about myself often in this regard. What if Jeff Roberti, the person who introduced it to me, you know, had taken the day off? And I would have missed maybe the most important thing in my life. So I think we all have experiences, though, where, you know, we don't either step out of our comfort zone because it's not comfortable. So maybe you'll share that story that you were sharing with me today.
It's a wonderful story. I really don't share it that much. When I was new in the business, I was driving hard to get to SC, and I was just about to make it in my 4th month, but I was really, really new. And we went out to a minor league baseball game. And as we walked in, I looked at my husband and said, I'm not going to talk about Juice Plus. I'm taking the night off. And he looked at me and he said, okay. And so I spoke with people. I was making new friends, and I knew one woman vaguely. She was not even an acquaintance, but she didn't look well. And she ended up leaving, and after she left early with her husband, the other people there shared with me that she was battling stage 4 breast cancer. And I kind of closed my eyes and said, how could I not have mentioned this? This is so bad. So how could I have not mentioned Juice Plus? So I called her up 2 days later and I said, Jane, this is Moira. I'm so sorry. And I went on to say, are you open to hearing about this company I partnered with that has 100% contaminant-free fruits and vegetables and berries in a capsule? And there was a big pregnant silence. And she said, how dare you? And I went, whoa. And she said, how dare you make that decision for me and not share this information? Who do you think you are? Boom. And she hung up the phone on me. And of course, my first reaction was to cry, which I'm not a crier, but I cried. And the next day, I found the courage to pick up the phone and call her and apologize and say, you are 100% right. I had no right to keep this from you. And I want to thank you for teaching me a very valuable lesson early on in this business. It wasn't about me, it's about everybody else. And thank you so much, Jane. And she ended up getting on Juice Plus, and I believe that it prolonged her life. The breast cancer got her eventually, but she was here for another 10 more years. And I know from my own experience from having melanoma, I know I didn't get another cancer because I flooded my body with this Juice Plus nutrition. And I don't say that normally because we don't make claims, but it's the truth. It's a very powerful, powerful gift we're giving people. So that was a good lesson for me, Cheryl. Hindsight being 2020, it was the best one of the best ones I've ever had.
And really, when you look at people developing their businesses, especially early on, we're all, particularly sensitive, I guess you would say, to people and their reactions to us. And there is that question of, should I speak up? Should I not? Or will it be too private? Maybe that person feels like I'm interfering with their privacy, something of that nature. But I think more than ever, and especially today, as we look at all the struggles around us, it is a moral obligation, I guess you would say, to make sure that you do reach out to people. We've often said over the years, as we've learned it, is that your story, and of course the story is the basis of how our business is built. It is the emotional connection. It's where the heart connection happens. And the heart connection is really the skill, because all the other things are logistics. And so, the story is really, your story is really not about you as much as it is the person that is hearing it. It's about them. It's about, that hope, that, you're reaching out so that they can get a picture of potential or possibility. So if we look at, just what is foundational to help you do that and do it and acquire the skills and develop, in a manner which is really going to be productive, not only from a business standpoint, but from an emotional revenue standpoint. If there's any one thing that I think has been the foundation, and I have to work at it, it's really working at staying positive and having real positive thought about yourself, your business. I love some of the various business philosophers, Jim Rohn being one of them, and I like to collect some of his sayings over the years, and he was great at a lot of this. And one of the things he says is you can precondition your mind to success. You can actually forecast what your future failure or success will be by your present type of thinking. So thinking, intention, just how you're going to go about keeping yourself in a positive state becomes a huge skill in itself. And so I wanted just to share thoughts on that tonight. I can tell you some of the things that, I have learned to do for myself. But, the truth of the matter is that a successful business cannot afford the luxury of one negative thought. So things are going to come along the way that are going to interrupt that positive. I mean, the story Moira just told you, as someone who is so young in the business that she wasn't even a sales coordinator yet, that could have been very something that instead of taking it and say, okay, I'm going to learn from it, it could have just knocked her out. So really all of the just the activity of being aware of your thought and your thought process, and working on that and continue to work on that becomes huge. Maura, you interrupt me at any time. Anything you want to share on intention or before I go on?
Well, you and I are kindred spirits on the power of thought, that thoughts become things. I'll never forget you told me that once with Napoleon Hill. But it is our responsibility, as you always say, Cheryl, to be the gatekeepers of our mind. Let in what you can, and don't worry about what you can't. Just walk away from it. Especially now, with you have to have courage to stay in a positive mindset these days, between COVID and the election, and people losing their jobs left and right, and it's almost like you don't know where to go first. But if I can keep track of how I feel, be very acutely aware of how I'm feeling, and make sure that I'm always working towards feeling great, or feeling better and closer to feeling great, then I know I'm going to think positive things are going to happen. Because a mind in a positive state have much better results than neutral or stressed. And so, I go outside, I go for walks, I meditate, I visualize, I do anything I have to keep myself in a positive state, just like you, Cheryl.
And you do have to work at it, and especially now we have to work at it. And that's why I want us to have this conversation tonight, is that, we're in probably one of the most challenging times that no one has any historical reference to base, anything on as to how you're going to move through it. For so many experiences in life, there's been someone somewhere who had a similar experience, and you could say, okay, this is how they, move through that. But we're all in something that's, quite different. And one of the things I kind of equate it to is, and I think it's just right now, I'll ask you to, as we look around and we think about the time we've been inside, and, it looks like at this point, I was talking to Elton DeBose today, who's one of our, as you know, senior vice presidents, started when Jay started this 50 years ago. And he says, well, I guess we're looking like it's going to be till next summer, before we really have any live events. And so, you think about that time frame, and I look at the experience with Katrina. I'm from New Orleans. I still have a home there. But when Katrina came through, and it just totally wiped out everything for everybody. And at first the reaction was, okay, we're tough. We got this. Everybody kind of rallied around and said, we're going to get this is a big job, but we're going to get it done. We'll get everything fixed, and everything will go back to normal. Well, for the first few months, that, you saw people really working at that, and then it began to get heavy, and it lasted a long time. I know with my own house, it took 4.5 years just because you couldn't get materials, and what I noticed was that after about 4 to 6 months, because I would go back and forth to work on it, there was like I don't know how to say it, a heavy feeling, a depression, a subtle depression that seemed to blanket the area. And it became quite uncomfortable, and you moved a little slower, and you felt like the load was heavier. And that's what today, I don't know that has arrived in quite that fashion. But I think we're the people that really can look to what is it that we can do to make sure that we stay in a state that's going to support people as they begin to maybe go through things of this nature. And even for ourselves, how do we step out of that state that's so easy to fall into? Because I've been in this house forever. I was talking to Sean Hopkins yesterday, and I said, when we do have a conference, it's going to be the biggest conference we ever had. I said, I need to smell a little jet fuel, I haven't been on an airplane now, and I used to think, oh, if I didn't have to get on airplanes every week, but it's been, 8 or 9 months at this point. So, people are feeling that. So again, it's going to be in how we think and how we direct our minds. If you read, over the years in any type of crisis or stress where people were in difficult physicians, those who really handle and survived well, were people who handled their thinking. I love this too. I pulled this from Jim Rohn. We've heard many times this quote by Henley, which is, "I am the master of my fate and the captain of my soul." And he goes on, Jim Rohn goes on to say, and then he drew this from Napoleon Hill, "We are the masters of our fate, the captains of our souls, because we have the power to control our thoughts." So I thought maybe Maura and I would share with you, how I work at that, how she works at that, to make sure you stay in a positive state. Because the only real thief to your success and to your happiness is the thief that, takes those positive thoughts and the negative seeps in. And as Maura just said, there's a lot going on around us where it's easy to fall into that negative. So, and Maura, you be thinking about what you do. I'll share a minute with what I do. I would suggest for all of you this book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, because, and it's Dr. Joseph Murphy, so that's PhD. And this to me is something that's very foundational, the power of your subconscious mind, because you can really reprogram yourself as far as thought is concerned by what you tell yourself. And that's another thing that Jim Rohn, was very adamant about in trainings was, if we look at influence, we have influence all around us. Influence comes from the media, it comes from the people you're talking to or hearing from, and so he says, really look at, who are you talking to daily? What are you reading? What are you allowing into your mind and therefore your subconscious? What are you allowing to be in the periphery that influences your thinking? Because most people don't get knocked off track, in one fell swoop. It's kind of a little nudge and a little nudge. So you want to make sure that you keep yourself in a state of positive thought. And this is something I learned also as I'm going through my career. Is I remember someone asking me once, when someone really rejects you, from a product standpoint, a business standpoint, well, why don't you quit? And I thought, well, there must be some thought that goes across my head, and so I began to look for those thoughts that when something happened that was negative, because we usually have an immediate subconscious thought that we might not see or hear or think of consciously, but it goes across your head. Mine happened to be positive in that regard. It was something, the next time it happened, I said, let me catch that thought. And it was something like, if you think you'd be good at this, just wait till you see who I get next. So it was like a challenge. I would set up a challenge. Now, I don't know why that was there. Somehow I must have developed that. But if it had been, oh, well, you'll never be any good at this because nobody's going to say yes and they're all going to. So, it really is. It is building, that powerful, positive thought. And you can reprogram those thoughts. We are in control of our thoughts. So sometimes it's catching that subconscious thought before you allow it to influence you in a way that is not in the best interest. And you picked it up somewhere along the way in life. So that book, he also does one, Think Yourself Rich, same author. And rich here doesn't mean just money. It's one of the things, but it also means all the riches of life. What brings you not only financial revenue, but emotional revenue. I love this one too, on Gratitude by Louise Hay, because that's another place that I found that it's a wonderful way to stay in positive thought. So Gratitude, Way of Life, Louise Hay. And this one is probably my 10th copy because I keep going through these and I wear them out. And I'll show you what it looks like to wear out a book, because these two are every day. And if we talk about, I'm one that to really work at keeping that negative influence, because it is so prevalent in our world today. I have to do this constantly, is to stay in books that really do help me create that positive thought. So this is one, again, Joseph Murphy, as I told you, is a favorite author. I'll have to show you. It is now, the cover has now gone. It did say, thank yourself to health, wealth, and happiness. But again, positive thought. I don't remember what the name of this one was, because now it's held together by green tape so it wouldn't come apart. But this is daily for me because it does keep me in a positive state. And so if you're going to look at managing your own happiness, your own productivity, and being available to people right now in a time where it's more needed than ever, I think it's really a baseline to do that. So Moira, share with us, because I know Moira also, there are many things that she does as well.
I wish I brought my books in with me.
I'm
They're by
sorry,
my bedside. I tend to read them late at night, right before I go to sleep or when I wake up in the morning. But, Cheryl, one thing that really resonates with me, and Dr. Michael Gervais is a sports psychologist, and he works with huge coaches of highly professional athletes. And one of the things he says is, of course, visualization and meditation and imagination are the pillars of happiness. But the other pillar is optimism. If you are an optimistic person, that is the center of mind toughness. If you can teach yourself to meditate or to pray or to focus and monotask, you can teach yourself to be optimistic. It is a choice. You are either optimistic or you're pessimistic. It's a choice of two. And a lot of pessimistic people say that they're not pessimistic, they're realists. And so what does that mean? That if you're optimistic, you're not real? I think it's really important. I know our future in the Juice Plus business is going to be phenomenal. And the time we need to be growing and helping people is right now. What we do right now is going to affect our business 3 and 5 years from now. We're going to make up, and yes, there are people struggling with money and finances. And yes, I'm having people delay and occasionally cancel, but that doesn't, I'm always going to keep track of them and invite them back. I'm inviting old customers back. I'm being creative about who I'm reaching out to. I'm getting excited about it. I started with the X in my contacts. Instead of starting with A, I'm starting with X, because I never get to X, and I never get to D, and I never get to S. And so that's been really rewarding for me. And I just think we have to work at being happy and being positive. And yeah, there's a lot going on, but how blessed are we? We get to be with each other. We get to be part of this culture. We get to be part of this heart-centered business, and we get to work with people we love and admire. I mean, that's just.
And that is such a blessing. And anytime I talk to anybody at the home office, we all, Paulo, and I spoke to him last week. As I said, I was on the phone with Sean yesterday, and the first thing we say is, aren't we lucky? How fortunate that our business was and is set up the way it is. But I think that it's going to be really reaching down into the core of yourself and pulling up those things that are going to shore you up so that you can shore other people up. If we look at Jay Martin, and I love Jay because he speaks to us as far as in song titles. He loves music. And most people may not even know. I mean, some of those boys up there at the home office can really sing, and he's one of them. But, Bridge Over Troubled Waters and Lean on Me are his 2 theme songs for the Juice Plus company as far as the situation we're in right now. And I can make a copy of, and I know Moira can too, of the book list that we have and send those out. I'd like to, and again, these are all from Jim Rohn, but really sparking off, I guess you would say, what Moira just said, is there is a deep tendency in human nature to become precisely like that we habitually imagine ourselves to be. Imagination is the art or science of the projected image. You might call it imaging, as she just said, that imagination and image of what you want to see. And that the sort of image of you of yourself that you hold is very important, for that image will become a fact. So really, what these books have taught me, what I've learned, is that I have to be the gatekeeper at the door of my mind. I've got to protect the spirit within. And in doing so, I protect what I'm able to offer to the world. And so it's being very strict with yourself in what goes in and how you continually shape how you're going to think about yourself, how you're going to see yourself from a positive standpoint. So positive thinking requires training and perseverance. It's not like it just pops in, because what? We're trained by the media, by society, to think in a negative fashion. You don't see people get on the news and tell you all the great things that happen during the day. And there are always at least two commentators. So they're going to both agree on all the negative, and the negative right now, the top's blown off of it. And so, it's your then responsibility to yourself to be the protection of that spirit within. So positive thinking is not an easy discipline, but it certainly pays very well, and one that you would want to be very cognizant of as you really pay attention to your day. So, how
Cheryl,
does...
can I just say one before we close up? One of the things I've recognized over the years of me going through this journey of staying optimistic and positive and in a positive mindset is when I catch myself in thinking a negative thought, I immediately turn to what I'm grateful for. And that stops the negative thought immediately. You do the same thing, right?
Well, and what's so interesting is, now Moira and I didn't plan this, but she just said this, and this is the next thing I was going to say. Push the negative thoughts by replacing them with positive thoughts. And you can do that. You can do that. You can be the one who's in control of it. I read a book about a man who was, and I wish I had this author, I just kept the quote that I liked from it. But the book was written on, he was someone who was hired by companies to come in and evaluate why their success was not what it should be, or maybe to, see if there were suggestions to make it better. And he actually referred to himself as the business doctor. And he says here, the business doctor makes an ailing business well again. And so he said he always found that the underlying cause of any business failure, whether large or small business, was the thought process of those people in charge. The trick, he said, in me helping a business turn around is to get men thinking of themselves as successful, and then their business would be successful. So again, it's preempting the thought, creating the image of what you want to see. And that's something that does take, consistent effort, but as we say, it pays very well. So it's something you want to also really invest your belief in, is that if done consistently, it never fails you. It never fails you to really work at that consistency. So today, I look at myself and, I stay in positive thought with support, okay? Support. And also, looking at things that really do, for some people, it's meditation. I'm not real good at quieting my mind, but I'll work at it. Things that really will support you in this sort of situation. It might be, and I have a new distributor that said what he loved about COVID right now, even though there wasn't much to love, is since he wasn't in his office, he could get up and he could work really hard from 7 to 10. And then he would take 2 hours where he'd do yoga and meditation. And then his afternoon turned out to be brilliant. So, we now have some flexibility where we can do some of these things. The other thing is that, and this is in so many of the things, the gratitude book, so many things, the subconscious, the power of the subconscious, is that you are closest to that subconscious or higher being, your higher self, right when you wake up in the morning and right as you're falling asleep at night. So it's the perfect time to give yourself positive instruction. And that's something I've really worked at doing that seems to make a big difference as well. So I know we've kind of talked past our time a little bit, but Moira, anything else in closing? Because again, this is a skill that if you employ at the best of times or the worst of times, it becomes foundational to a real successful outcome in all areas of your life. Moira?
Just one last thought, and that is, I now look at my month of my business, and when I didn't meet the outcome that I thought I was going to have, instead of being disappointed and negative with myself, I get really excited about what's coming this month or what's about to happen in the current month I'm in, because I was building the whole time, and I'm not responsible for the actions of other people, but I've got enough momentum out there that it's all going to hit this month. And I'm really excited about it. So it's in your mind. You can be negative and be mad at yourself, or you can look forward to what you've been manifesting.
And it is that consistent positive imaging and future, and also the belief. What you're saying really, Maury, is that you've established a way to truly have faith in the outcome. And belief, you want to have belief that's bold and daring, and faith is really the essence of positive thinking. You don't want to have timid doubt. You don't want weak speculation, but big, bold, daring faith. And that's really where the victory comes in, is you just establishing. And that's really what you've just described, is you got to a point where you knew that if the activity was consistent, that the momentum would take hold, and you had faith that the outcome would be a positive outcome. So it is a basic fact about faith that it will work with power when you give all of yourself to something you believe. You don't have any reservations. You've gotten to the point where you know what you know, what you know. And so believe positively with all your heart, all your mind, all your spirit. And there's no goal that you can't master, because and that's something that I've really figured out over time, is that we have so much more power, brain power, endurance, perseverance, spiritual power. We have so much more than we ever access. So it's endless. And it's just a matter of consistently working on that positive thought, gratitude, and really showing up, for other people. And then it comes right back to you. So thank you so much, Maura. We're going to have close here, because this is one of those topics that I could probably go on till tomorrow morning. Okay. Before we close, I do know that there have been people that are beginning to promote here. This was the first day of October, believe it or not. And so I know Hamilton Brower may be on with us. I was so proud today. I heard that he has just been promoted to PSSC. And
thank you, Cheryl.
There he is. There he is. Look at him.
So excited.
And so, and I don't know if there's anyone else on. Is there anyone else on that's had a promotion of any type that we could give you a shout out? Well, and if not, it may be coming soon, because I know they're just getting the end of month here. But let's see, first POB, I've missed the name. But anyway, let me see if I can go back and find it right quick in the chat.
Susan Divine.
Yes, that's great. And so anyway, as we do these on Thursday night, please, if you've had a promotion, someone in your organization has promoted, now let's start recognizing those people here as well. So let's be bold, go forward, be in control of our thoughts, and we're all thinking good things. Okay, we're all.
Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks, everybody.
So thank you so much for your input in all of our short stories tonight. Just so grateful for you all. Bye-bye, folks. Have a good evening.
Oh, thank you so much.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Cheryl. Thank you,
Thank
Maura.
you both. That was
Night,
wonderful.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.